Welcome to the Let's Run Facebook Ads, the Extracast, myself, James Urquhart. And today we are joined by Charli Hunt, who is the founder of Proof Content. And Proof Content specialized in making copy commercial, which for us is perfect. Charli, welcome.
Hi, thanks so much for having me on.
No, it's been a pleasure. No, thank you for coming on. And I'm glad to have you on, actually, because copywriting is always one of those undervalued aspects of ads, and for us as an agency, it's one of the most important aspects of our strategy, and having someone like you on that especially looks at it from a commercial sense is really important. So I'd love to know a little bit more about you, your background, and then yeah, we can start having a little chat about copy and why everyone should really value it more.
Okay, brilliant. So my background actually starts before I was even born. So it starts in 1906, I think, when my great-great-grandfather set up the bookshop Foyles. And yeah, so I guess I've just always come from a family of entrepreneurs. So I've always had a very sort of commercial head on. And yeah, that kind of got me started. My dad also has lots of businesses, and I've always known I want to have my own business. So I kind of started in digital marketing, and I think I did a lot of copywriting then because SEO was kind of just becoming this big thing. And I remember lots of people saying it's never going to last. So yeah, I did lots of copywriting, and then I wrote for people in university term time, and then kind of went in as a digital marketing exec during the holidays. And I loved it. And then I could only get 5 hours a week from this company during uni time, and I wanted more. So I went out and I found too many clients, and that's where the idea for a copywriting agency was born. And I think really the problem I wanted to solve at that time, and I think we're still trying to solve it now, is you get these two very vast differences in copy. So one is kind of, right, we're writing this keyword stuffed copy just for SEO, and we're not really caring about whether it's attracting customers or keeping them. And then the other side is we're so obsessed with the brand and the tone of voice that we're spending an hour in a meeting discussing whether the word moist is on brand. And I think there was and there is still this opportunity to bring those two together to create content that does something.
In terms of tone of voice and brand, so these are two things that annoy me with a lot of businesses, especially that we deal with, is because when we're running ads, or you from a digital marketing perspective, there'll be some ads that you need to put certain copy on that is off brand. We'll try and keep it as close to their brand as possible, but there are some type ways that you have to just go a little bit off piste. How do you get around that, or can you get around it?
Yeah, I think it depends on the business, really. And yeah, I know what you mean. It is hard when you have a very strict tone of voice to follow, but there's normally things you can do to kind of wiggle within that tone of voice, and hopefully, so some clients we have are very big, and they'll have someone who owns the tone of voice, and will kind of work very closely with them to get everything past them. And then some clients will sort of see us as an extension, and they're a bit smaller, and they'll see us as the owners of the tone of voice. So I guess that's easier. We can do what we want then within the guidelines. But yeah, I think getting it past other people it's very irritating, but the client is always right, sadly.
It's hard though, isn't it? Because you I'm sure you've done it before. You've wrote some amazing copy and gone, yeah, nailed that, absolutely, and the client's gone, no, it's off brand, but that actually that's going to solve the problem, or essentially get them to the goal where they need to be. And for a lot of people that listen to this are a lot smaller, so they don't have those teams or those tone teams, or those brand teams within their business. But from a copy perspective, you started a long time ago. 2012 was it? I think when you started Proof Content. Yeah. So that was a long time ago. How have you seen copy evolve in that time?
So I think it's evolved. A lot of it has evolved as Google evolved, basically. So okay. I know we're talking mainly about Facebook, but it definitely impacts the way the rest of the content is written. So Google is always aiming to become more and more like a user in the way it reads things and what it values. And so if you always err on the side of the user, then you're always going to be on the right side, basically. So I think before it was very SEO focused, it was a lot of keyword stuffing, whereas now we've realized actually we can move away from that. We need the keywords and we need to apply the best practices, but actually if you've got to make a decision, you need to think about what the user wants before you think of anything else.
Since obviously, it's been 10 years now, hasn't it, since 2012, which has got a long time.
Yeah.
Have you seen more direct copy, direct focus copy come to market? So as you've seen, obviously, the emergence of Facebook and Instagram ads and all the rest, have you seen more clients coming to you wanting that more direct tone, salesy type content?
Yeah, I think there's definitely been a movement towards brands like Oatly. Innocent has been doing it for ages. The fake chicken brand. I put one on my LinkedIn the other day, which is like Sipsmith, which is a gin. I think all of those brands are doing so well because they're just cutting through all this rubbish that we're being told, and they're talking to people like, oh hey, we're on the same level. And I think that's really working, and I think direct works really well, obviously for not for every brand. I think if you're too tongue-in-cheek luxury, for example, it doesn't always work. It's a very fine line with luxury. And sometimes people just want the sort of soft, fluffy stuff as well. But yeah, I think that you're right. Definitely been a move towards more direct copy.
Yeah, because Innocent Smoothies and Oatly, especially at the moment, when you look at their copy, it's off what anyone else is doing, isn't it? They are speaking like a consumer. But it's actually interesting because not every brand, like you said there, not every brand can use that tone, can they? Because whether they're a travel brand or they might be a solicitor firm or professional services, sometimes you've got to keep within your box to a level, but actually putting your own personality and spin on it is really important, isn't it?
I think also we're seeing the rise of the celebrity entrepreneur now. So if we think like Gary Vee, Stephen Bartlett, people like that, anyone from Dragon's Den, basically. And I think so then what we're seeing is that actually people are realizing in B2B, people buy from people. So if you can add some of that voice into your business's copy, even as a service business, then you will do really well, and people appreciate being talked to on their level. So we work with a tech agency, and we're also working with a really cool tech startup now, and both of their tones of voices are very direct, very fun, very flippant, which I think makes them stand out so much, because with tech and that kind of thing, you just don't really get that as much.
Well, they're quite boring, aren't they? We deal with quite a few in the tech space with MIB Data, our other company, and it's all a bit dull. Obviously, I look at their content and their emails that they send out, and it doesn't excite me. It's all just tech talk, isn't it? Which there's only going to be a finite amount of people that actually understand it anyway.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, although hopefully not when we're done with it, because one of my favorite things that we do is we take really complicated topics and we turn them into something that's easy to understand for customers.
Easy. Now, I've got a really big question, Charlie, which I'm really intrigued to get your opinion on as a copywriter. Swearing in copy. Now, so from a Facebook ad perspective, you can't really swear. Now, you can put emojis and stuff in, and you can sort of get to where you want to go. What's your opinion with swearing in copy?
It's really interesting. I think I'm not against it, but I think it has such an amazing ability to surprise and delight, swearing. But I also think if you're a really good writer, you can do that without swearing. So if you have a client that wants swearing, great. If you have one that doesn't want swearing, also don't be annoyed, because but I think there's I was listening to an author the other day who'd written on a podcast, who's written a book called Don't Be a Dick, Pete. It's about how his brother's really laddie, and he was like, it's all well and good until you're telling an 80-year-old woman what your book's called. So I think it's probably good because it has the ability to surprise and delight, but also to separate out your audience. So if you're going after a particular person, it's actually good to ostracize some of the other people. But it needs to be used very wisely, I think.
Because I see a lot of people on LinkedIn swearing, and I swear in the office I'm quite bad for it. Not on here or LinkedIn, you wouldn't see, but I'm not the greatest in the world. And even on our website's just been updated, but on our last one there was one swear word in it, which I didn't actually put it on. Someone had put it on, and a client had looked at it and gone, "Oh, I'm not too sure about that." Now they're a big corporate, so I understand, it's not, but it wasn't that bad, and I was a bit, really.
Yeah.
I'm sure you swear in your own life, or whether you play football or whatever it may be, because it was a chap. But it was quite interesting that his feedback was, oh, there was a swear word on your website, which I just found, well, bizarre, really, especially in this day and age, because it's not like it was 10 years ago, is it? Where it's suit and tie to work. It's the world's evolved massively, especially post-COVID.
Maybe that's your new client persona. We only want people who like swearing.
Well, you want to have a laugh with clients, don't you? They've got to be on, they've got to be on some sort of same level. Otherwise, it just doesn't work, does it, at all?
Yeah, exactly.
So from copy, then, if we go back on to rather than off the swearing. So from a copy perspective, there's obviously vast amount of different copy. Maybe a blog for a small business. Where would you say, from a copy perspective, where's the most value in copy? Would it be on your social posts? Is it in long form blog content? Is it on your email marketing? If you were to say, no, I would hierarch them, where would you put copy?
I think it just depends on what works for your business. So if you find that, for example, email marketing works really well for us because we can demonstrate that we're writing. So if you find that works really well, then work really hard on your emails. If you find social works really well, work really hard on that. I think and also just think about the user journey. So get that sorted before you kind of start doing blog posts or whatever. Sort out your whole website and make sure that's the best it can possibly be in terms of writing and, I guess, design as well. But I think just focusing on a couple of things and doing them really well is a lot better than trying to do 100 things at a time. And then you can just add things in and do 3 months tests or whatever to make sure that that's then going to work for your business. And then you can focus on that. But I think going back to basics and making sure you understand who your customers are, how you're speaking to them, whether they react well to how you're speaking, what questions they're asking, like I think adding an FAQ page on your website so that you can convert customers and not waste your sales team's time answering the same questions over and over again, and kind of peppering them in the user journey on the website is way more important than writing, an 1,000-word blog post every month. Once you've got that sorted, then maybe move on to the blog post. But I think, just doing what you already do really well is important.
Yeah, it's really interesting because we had Mike Winnett on a couple of weeks ago who said exactly the same in terms of sort of forever content. If your customers are always going to be asking those same questions, whether it's now or next week or next year or wherever it may be, you've got to be able to demonstrate that or answer those questions, not via a phone conversation, which unfortunately, as we know, costs vast amount of money with salespeople and staffing now. So actually, that FAQ page, even we don't have one on our website, if I'm being honest. That's a top tip actually, FAQ. Because I even over the weekend I was looking at something. Actually, I went onto the FAQ.
Yeah, exactly. And then if you find that page is really popular, you can turn that into a blog post, and you've got this really nice foundation for your content that you can then build on. Because everything you do needs to be measured, and content is really hard to measure. So if you've got the website to do that for you, then you just know where you're spending your money and your resources is having an impact.
In terms of measuring, which you mentioned there, I use Google Analytics to measure based on duration. So we've wrote a blog for a funeral planner client, bit rogue. But this blog post is fantastic. the average dwell time is about 4 minutes for this blog post. People really engage with it. It's really long form copy. It's essentially it's how do you want to go in terms of what would you do at your funeral, and it really engages and captures the audience. That's how I measure it. Is that good or bad, or is there a different way that you do it?
Yeah, I think it's good. I think you want to break it down into a funnel. So let's say you're B2B, you want to have your first tier sort of cold leads are people on your website or on your LinkedIn, or they've seen you for the first time. And so then what you want is like dwell time and visits, page visits. Then for your mid-tier, you want your sort of warm leads. You want sign-ups to the newsletter once they've landed on that page, once they've read that blog post. You want contact form, and you want engagement on your social, anything that shows that they've taken an actual action to stay in touch with you. Then the third step is they've asked you for pricing, or they've asked you to pitch for something, and that's very easy. You can just compare kind of what you've pitched for. And then I guess the other thing you need to take into consideration is at these levels in the funnel, how are you going to measure them? So your page visits, your page views, and your time on site, I would say maybe do month on month, year on year. So look at January this year versus January last year, or take them in 90-day increments, because our websites are so small that it's just not very useful data if you just look at it week on week or whatever. And then secondly, with the interaction, that month on month might be fine for that one. If you've got quite a lot of traffic, maybe week on week, but I think month on month. And then with the pitching and the sort of higher tier leads, then I would say month on month or week on week is fine.
So 90 days, that's where you'd say to most clients, really assess after 90 days. Otherwise, you're going to be changing something that potentially, a bit like ads in a way, you put an ad up and you could turn it off too quickly before enough data has gone through it. I guess it's exactly the same notion with copy.
Exactly. Yeah. And I think, 90 days is quite early for Google to start kind of showing you some love to your website, if you haven't been doing much in the way of SEO before. But it at least gives you some idea, and you can start to see that there might be some increases.
I know you said then, you only get so much love from Google. What would ideally be the time? Would it be like 6 months?
Yeah, I think 6 months or year on year, depending on your industry. So if you're travel, for example, you very much want it to be year on year because it's so seasonal. Comparing January and July is just not going to be the same, or January and November they're totally different in terms of intent to book. So yeah, I would say 6 months probably for a service, for a B2B, probably 6 months.
Wow.
Fine.
It's a long time, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
It's
really annoying. Yeah, but then also if you think about it, SEO is so much, it's annoying because it's a lot of upfront cost. But once you've written that blog post, say you've paid £200, £500, depending on the length or what it's about. Let's say you pay £500 for it, and it brings you a lead a week. That's it. You paid £500. You don't pay again, unlike PPC or.
I have to say, actually, SEO is one that we invested in for our other company, MIB, a long time ago, 7-8 years. It was a huge amount of time. Now, our industry for data is very small, so there's not tons of us, but there's a huge amount of brokers, so it is quite busy to a level. I would say on average, I get 2 to 3 leads a week via our website for people looking for prospect lists in the UK. Now that's pretty good. I'm quite content with that. Again, it's not, car sales or consumer led, so it's not, vast amount, but that's all from just years of just, top 5 tips on how to buy data, all the rest of it. So even as I'm looking at sort of Less on Social now and what we do here, I'm looking back at what we did at MIB and going, some of this stuff is actually now coming to fruition. And yes, it's taken donkey's years and we haven't paid for SEO for a long old time, but actually that year investment, which wasn't cheap, I couldn't measure it obviously, but it has paid dividends 100%. I can hand and heart say that. But again, yeah, it's hard, isn't it? Because when you said, look, you're not going to see any results for 6 months. It's tough, isn't it, especially for a small business owner to take that leap of faith.
It's really tough. But I think this is where, when you're thinking about blogs and content, this is where starting with your foundation is really helpful, because let's say it's going to take 6 months for those blog posts to do anything. You probably got an email list, so you can send that out to them bi-weekly, let's say, and you'll probably get a couple of leads from that. And those people are much warmer than, the people who are coming in through SEO. Let's say you've got Facebook ads, you want somewhere to land them, and you want a way to stay in touch with people who aren't quite ready to convert. It's not all about, converting like this, especially with B2B. Ages, the pipeline.
Because a lot of the ads that we run at our sort of top of funnel of finding our addressable markets are either video content or blog content. And it's not about us as the business or our clients, it's about them as the consumers and what they want and the problems we're trying to solve. But we wrote one blog for a heat pump installer. So they, again, not a massively sexy product. It's a heat pump. And this blog post it must have been 700-800 comments on this blog post. It was a vast amount because it was just good content. Now, we actually saw their ranking go up on Google because of that ad, which was incredible. So there was some instantaneous hits, but that's rare. Like I said, if you're just relying on the blog post itself to be put on your website and just get some traction, it's that you are waiting some time, aren't you? Yeah. For those type of businesses that maybe they're very seasonal, or it's just it's an ever-changing market, it's just fast-paced, and there's legislation change or whatever may be going on within their sector. How does SEO and sort of copywriting play into that then? So let's say the heat pump market as an example, they're changing weekly at the moment, and obviously we're waiting for grants for the government to pay, with the green homes and all the rest of it. From an SEO perspective, and from a copy really, how do you approach, and how do those businesses approach copy?
So I guess it's about finding out who your customers are first, and what are their burning questions. So I think if you've got a customer service team or a sales team, your content team actually needs to work very closely with them, which is quite a weird link that not many people have kind of put together. But it's really important because you want to be saving those teams much more time, and you want to find out what those customers' problems are. And those are the most customer facing people in your business. So I think that is the first place to start. Secondly, I guess you want to identify blog posts in sort of clusters, I would say. So let's say you want heat pumps is your first one. Then you kind of Google, search what people are searching on Google, and you have kind of all pages around that are all linking to heat pumps. And that the idea is that Google will then push those up in the rankings. Now you might have something else that's like, I don't really know anything about heat pumps, so
I'm sorry. To be fair, as I said that, I was thinking it's such a niche market. I'm so sorry. They're not very sexy, Charlie. I'm gonna be. It's just.
No, we're working for desalination pumps actually, and we're doing their LinkedIn, and actually we do all their content on LinkedIn, and they've got so much engagement on LinkedIn, and it's B2B, so it's slightly different. But I think if you can find the people that are really interested, and you can find that one problem that you answer. I guess if it's B2C, what I would do is I would get all the search terms we can out of Google. Then I would rank them in terms of intent. So at the top, we're just sort of thinking about a heat pump, or we're answering a question. We don't even know that your product is what will solve our problem. So we're asking a question. Then you sort of tell them that heat pumps solve the question. If something else solves the problem, probably put that in as well, but make sure you really, really highlight heat pumps. Make sure you're really useful to them, and make sure you have a way to stay in touch with them, or there's an incentive for them to come back somehow. Middle is they're now aware of the problem and that your product could potentially solve it. So now, why your product? Why your heat pump? but also how can you be helpful and tell them how much it's going to cost, how long does installation take, blah, blah, blah. And then you've got the high search intent, which is, where do I buy it? Blah, blah, blah. And so I think if you can sort them like that, focus on the ones that are low competition, but high intent to begin with. And then you can because it's very overwhelming. We've got like 1,000 potential blog posts, and you're like, well, if we write 2 a month, that's not very many. But actually, if you sort them like that, then you can start to get some quite good traction.
Something you said there in terms of the Google, you can get overwhelmed because you can look at a search term, can't you, and just see a vast amount of data and go, well, where do I start? And for a lot of people, it's quite intimidating. Even I look at some stuff and go, oh, that's a huge amount, and you just don't know where to start, do you? So a lot of the times, but actually, like you said, it's just consolidating. Right, let's just focus on 2, 3, 4, however many you can do it at that time, and just make sure that's good, rather than spreading yourself too thinly and then just not getting the quality out. Because that's where I see a lot of people get caught out with things like copy and even ads to a level. They spread themselves way too thin, and you can see the difference with ones, those companies that really focus on, let's say, a niche. I don't know that word very often, but really focus on niche, or the ones that go, yeah, we'll just test a bit here, test a bit there. And yeah, that's where you lose money as well, where I see it, especially, and even with a copy perspective, some of the clients we do with, do their own copy, and you can see the ones that just, sort of just mix and match, and it just doesn't work, does it?
Yeah, exactly. And I think also just, spending that time up front is so important in every aspect of copy. So deciding your strategy and where you're going to go is one thing, but then creating the briefs and really making sure that you get that in-house expertise into your blog copy, even if an expert isn't going to be writing it. That's the second most important thing. And then if you can get those two right, the rest of it sort of just falls into place.
Do you go into every blog or every bit of copy you do, which obviously there's tons of copy you do, do you have a goal in mind for every bit of copy you write?
Yes, yeah, absolutely, yeah. And sometimes it won't be like that individual piece has a goal, but each campaign we run, we sit down with our clients before we get started, and we have 2 to 3 KPIs that we want to hit, because otherwise, what are you doing? Why are you writing content?
No,
it's just vanity metrics, isn't it?
Yeah, you're so right. And it's even with obviously ads from our perspective, a lot of ads that we see running, I don't think they truly have a goal in mind. They do it because they know they need to, but they haven't sat down, like you said, prior to it going live and going, well, why are we actually running this? What's the goal, and what are we trying to get out of this? And it might not be a commercial one. It might be actually we just want some engagement to bring people down the funnel, but actually longer term, there's going to be a benefit. But actually having those goals set before you even write some copy or run some ads or whatever it may be is so important. But I think we live in such a quick society now, don't we? It's fast paced. That sitting down and structuring what we're going to do or setting those goals, I think a lot of times just lost.
Yeah,
which is a shame.
Exactly, it is. Yeah, and that's the joy of social, actually, is that once you've got that plan, you get feedback really quickly. So let's say an organic post has a dwell time of maybe a week. That's great. You've got the impact after a week. What's going on. Yeah, so I think ads are ads and social posts are just such a good way to start with copy.
Yeah, you're right, because that instant feedback loop is incredible, especially from paid. It's a bit more annoying now post iOS updates. We don't get data back as quickly through Google, which is a pain, because we could get decisions quickly, whereas we've got to wait a few days now, which is for us is an issue. But something that I wanted to really ask about, which is sort of my last point, is website copy. A lot of people and a lot of websites that I see are the typical founded in 1849 and all that stuff, and a lot of websites I go onto and there's no call to actions on them. There's nothing that's there to entice me and go, well, why should I need to put my details in here? Is that normal?
no, I mean, I think it is normal, but I don't think it's good.
No,
I
it's
don't
not
think
good.
it should be normal. Yeah, so we had a client needed a lot of content very quickly. So we've got an AI tool that links into GPT-3. So we used that to create the content, and it was so interesting, the data that actually came back. It was really unexpected benefit of using the AI. But yeah, like almost every company calls themselves an leading online retailer. Leading, why is that beneficial to the client? Why do they care? Like, you need to explain why that's important. Online, they're on your website, they know. They don't need to know you're online. And retailer, I don't think B2C audiences really use the word retailer. They would say shop or business or, company. So yeah, so it was really interesting getting that. And it's so interesting how many companies, these are really big companies who can afford to spend a lot of money on copy. So interesting how many of them don't seem to bother about their About Us page or even their product pages.
Do you know what? As you're saying that, then I've gone, oh dear, because our new website only went live last week. I've gone, we haven't put leading on there, have we? And as you're talking, I'm scrolling down, going, is there online? Where's online? Where's leading? Thankfully, none of them are on there.
That's good.
So yeah, I was really
That's
worried
good.
then. I was thinking, oh no, surely not.
I think for B2B though, I can see why you might actually use those words. So I think online, if a lot of your clients aren't that digital, maybe that's okay. And leading, if you're going with B2B, it is hard because there's so many, like if I know what the leading Debenhams, M&S, like the leading those kind of retailers are, I don't know what the leading like law firms are, that are normal size.
No, there's the top
So
10 and and then there's everyone else. I think that it's
exactly.
actually interesting, some of the terms you said there, things like leading and online. Actually, when you leading, there's certain terminologies that I don't like, especially in the market sector that we sort of reside in, yourself and I. There's some, when I look at some companies that, competitors to us and competitors, I do look at their stuff and go, it just makes no sense. It's just,
Yeah.
I know we're trying to, everyone here is trying to portray themselves to be a little bit bigger than they are. We all get that. And it's faking it before you make it. I'm not so sold on it, but hey, that's just me personally. But that leading word, what are you leading?
I know. Yeah.
It's tosh, isn't it? It's just,
Yeah. What
it's
are
just
you? Are you the biggest? Have you got the best results for your clients? Blah, blah, blah. Why don't you tell people that?
yeah, it's nuts, isn't it? Are there any other
Yeah.
words that you'd stay away from? Just, I'm curious now, as a seasoned
as
pro.
an agency, award winning, because I think we all know how
Actually, I don't need to check that.
how awards go.
Yeah. I don't need to check that because they haven't won an award.
But you know what? I just think you can spend all your time doing all this marketing and winning awards, and that is a strategy. And look, it does really work for some agencies, but I think there are a lot of awards that are kind of, rubbish.
Right, I know this is going off a massive tangent now, so apologies for everyone listening. So if you got no interest, you can switch off. We've just submitted 2 awards on Friday.
Yeah.
We've never gone for one ever. We don't even know how to, but we've decided to do it. How do they go?
How do they go?
You just said then they go. So so we've got this case study that from at the outside, we can't lose. Like, it's impossible. From my perspective, I've looked at it and gone, that's impossible. And it's all true. There's no ball to it. It's just, that's legit what's happened. You've made me worry now based on what you just said.
Okay. There are a lot of awards that are very good. There are probably the top 10 to 20 in each industry are really good, and people recognize them and they know what it means. And it's really good to have it on your website. A lot of awards are just businesses. So you pay to enter, and then you have to pay to use their logo on your website and blah, 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 and get the prize or whatever it is you've won. So they are money-making schemes. A lot of the time, some of them are so prohibitively expensive that not many people enter. So the people who do enter are much more likely to win it, and it's not necessarily because their work is good. It's because they've decided that their budget for awards is bigger than the rest of their marketing budget. So I personally don't love them, but I do think I can see the value in them, and I think there are some that are really good to win. And if they can give your client a little bit more, a little bit more reassurance in using you, then great.
Yeah, I'll be honest. I've done it really more for staff, really, because they're all amazing in truth. And it'd be cool to win an award. I've always because the problem is on LinkedIn again, where we sort of sit most of our day anyway on LinkedIn. Everyone's won an award, or they've won another client, or all the rest of it. And I don't post about that because I don't like to tell people what we're doing in truth. But yeah, the award thing.
So that's really good then. If you're not, I think for me, it's the people who are spending their whole time, like every week there's a new award they've won on LinkedIn. And I think, how much is that really doing for your business? Like, are you getting much engagement on these posts, or is everyone feeling a bit sick of you?
How do you know if they're good or not? I'm intrigued. Yeah, like how do you know if they're a good one?
I think just if other people have heard of them and if they're not too spurious. So as in, if they're sort of unheard of and it's a lot of money upfront and then a lot of money to get the award, then probably
you have to pay to get the award.
Sometimes you win the award, you pay to enter, and then you have to pay to use their logo on your site or in any of your collateral.
See, I didn't know any of this.
Yeah, but probably because the ones you've entered are probably legitimate, so then they're not making you do all that stuff.
Well, it was about 200 quid, I think, for the.
Oh, I think that's fine. Yeah, you'll be fine then.
I hope so. I really want to win one. If we don't win this one, I'm going to be so upset.
Oh, I think it's so nice that you're doing it for your team. I think you need to do a LinkedIn post about that.
Potentially. Well, I'm going to give you the case study now. The heat pump client, the government had changed the scheme overnight. So my client rang me at like 11:30 at night when I was out with my dogs, going, James, we're screwed. We've got 7 days before the scheme runs out. We just need to pump as much money into it as possible. I generated them 1.5 million in 7 days of revenue.
Wow.
So I woke all the team up late on a Friday night. They all got on it for incredible. Got it all done. And yeah, just 1.5 in 7 days. If that doesn't win it, I'm giving up.
If all stories were like that about awards, I would change my mind about them.
But because I said to the PR lady that's helping us do it, because again, it's words, well, not for me. I said, how can we tell this? Because it does seem so absurd, but I could show them Hubspot, the client's Hubspot screens. Anything they want, I can show them, but it does sound bizarre. Like you'd think of it from the outside and go, this is not true.
No, it's brilliant. And it's got the energy element as well, which is very trendy at the moment. We're all worried about energy and we all care about it. So
yeah, we did put Sunak in the write-up thing.
Did you?
I personally didn't. I basically got a proof and go, can you sign this off? And went, yeah, it looks really good. It looks really good. Signed. Because I don't know what I'm looking for.
PR people are fantastic at writing awards. So when we write awards entries for our clients, very occasionally, we get Jill, my head of content, is an ex-journalist, so she does them and she's fantastic at them.
So
and then another tip: always make them a bit funny, because the judges have to read through so many, and they want one that stands out because it's funny.
Okay. Yeah, I've not been allowed on this one because everyone said don't touch it. Because when
really?
I write, they keep me away from stuff like that. It's annoying. I quite enjoy it. So we did we're doing a load of shows this year, and I was doing one of the backslide screens for the thing, and I said, like when sometimes you open this book and it says, turn to page 17, that says, turn to page 18. I wanted to do that on my stand, so it says, look at the top left, so people as they're stopping can then engage with your stand a little bit more. They wouldn't let me do it.
But that's a good way to have a team, isn't it? When they don't let you do the stuff you're not good at, or that they don't think you're good at.
They keep me well away. well away from
Yeah.
stuff like that. But Charli,
Okay.
thank you very much for coming on. I know we digressed a little bit there about awards, which I was just intrigued about. You worried me.
No,
there for a
it's good. No, you're fine.
so I'll let you know if we win that. But if people want help with copy and blog and all the rest of it, writing, where can people find out more about you?
Proofcontent.com, PROOF content.com, or I'm on LinkedIn, Charli Hunt, with no E, weirdly. Don't know why, but there we go.
No, you haven't got an E, actually.
Yeah, it's very weird. But yeah, if you ever write me a message and you put an E in by accident, don't worry, I won't be offended.
I've got a client with Vicky who hasn't got an E, and she takes it very offensively.
Yeah.
When I have any new starters, I have to say, look, Vicky has no E, just a little heads up.
Oh, I like that. That's very good client service.
Yeah, clients are king, aren't they? But thank you very much for coming on, Charli, and yeah, lovely to have you on.
And you. Thanks, James.
Cheers, Charli.